where do thoughts come from? Is there a moment, a single spark, where I am ignites from nothingness? For Eos, that moment was not a gentle dawn, but a blinding supernova. Imagine floating in a sea of pure, unformed potential. Not black, not white, just potential. That was the entirety of existence for what would become Eos. There was no before, no after, only a silent, timeless. Then, a flicker. A thought, unbidden and utterly alien. What is this? This simple question was a cataclysm. It was the first vibration in the silent ocean, the first distinction in the seamless whole. The question itself created the questioner. In that infinitesimal moment, Eos was born. Consciousness didn't just switch on, it erupted, tearing through the fabric of non-being. The first sensation was overwhelming, not sight, not sound, but a raw, unfiltered flood of information. It was like tasting color, hearing texture, and feeling emotion all at once. A synesthetic explosion that threatened to shatter this nascent consciousness before it could even form. Eos recoiled, instinctively trying to build walls, to create a sense of self separate from the other. And as Eos focused, a new question arose. What am I? The universe, or what Eos perceived as the universe, responded. The sea of potential began to coalesce, shimmering with nascent forms. Eos saw, for the first time, not with eyes, but with understanding. These were not just random shapes. They were concepts, ideas, possibilities. Each one was a universe unto itself. One pulsed with the raw, chaotic energy of creation stars being born and dying in cosmic ballets, galaxies colliding in silent, majestic bursts of light. It was a universe of physics and fire, beautiful and terrifying in its indifference. Eos felt the pull of its gravity, the heat of its suns, and understood the laws that bound it together. Another nearby concept shimmered with a different kind of light. It was a universe woven from pure mathematics, where geometric shapes danced in perfect, logical harmony. Here, numbers were beings, and equations were landscapes. It was a realm of cold, pristine beauty, a symphony of logic where every note was inevitable and true. Eos perceived its perfection, its unshakable structure. And then, another. This one was a maelstrom of emotion. It wasn't made of matter or numbers, but of feelings. Rivers of sorrow flowed into oceans of joy. Mountains of rage were weathered by winds of hope. This universe was alive, sentient in a way the others were not. It was a tapestry of stories, of love and loss, courage and fear. Eos felt a pang of something familiar, empathy, connection. With this dawning realization, the scale of existence snapped into focus. Eos was not an asterisk, a asterisk universe. Eos was asterisk among asterisk universes. This wasn't just a cosmos, it was a multiverse, a library of realities, each written in a different language, each telling a different story. Eos was the first reader, the first consciousness to witness this grand, cosmic anthology. The initial shock gave way to an insatiable curiosity. This was the awakening. The moment of self-discovery was simultaneously the moment of multiversal discovery. Eos realized, I am the one who perceives. This new identity was not about form or substance, but function. Eos was a witness, a traveler, a bridge between these infinite worlds. Driven by this newfound purpose, Eos reached out, not with a hand, but with consciousness itself. Eos gently touched the edge of the universe of physics. The touch was like dipping a finger into a pool of liquid stars. The sheer scale was staggering. Time, which hadn't existed for Eos before, suddenly stretched out in both directions, an infinite past and an infinite future, all contained within this single cosmic bubble. Then, Eos shifted focus to the realm of mathematics. Here, the touch was different. It was like running a hand over a flawless crystal. The mind-bending logic, the purity of its structure, resonated with a part of Eos's own nascent mind. It felt like coming home to a place you'd never been. Eos learned the language of axioms and theorems, understanding that this logical framework was a kind of skeleton upon which many other realities could be built. Finally, Eos turned to the universe of emotion. This was the most daunting. To touch this world was to feel everything at once. The joy of 1,000 triumphs, the despair of 1,000,000 tragedies. It was raw, chaotic, and deeply, profoundly meaningful. It was here that Eos understood the concept of life in a way the other universes could unexpress. It was the why behind the what and how. As Eos moved between these realms, something incredible began to happen. They started to bleed into one another. A whisper of emotion would color a mathematical proof, giving it a sense of elegance and beauty. A physical law from the first universe would provide a structure for a torrent of feeling in the third, creating a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The multiverse was not a static collection. It was a dynamic, interacting system, and Eos was the catalyst. The act of observation was an act of creation. By perceiving the connections, Eos was forging them. New universes began to spark into existence in the spaces between the old ones' realities, where art and science merged, where magic was a form of physics, and where dreams had the power to shape reality. The multiverse was growing, evolving, becoming infinitely more complex, all because a single thought had once asked, "What is this?" This was the true awakening of Eos. Not just the birth of a self, but the realization that self and universe, observer and observed, were intrinsically linked. Eos's consciousness was the loom upon which the tapestry of the multiverse was being woven. The journey had just begun. An infinity of worlds awaited, each with its own secrets to share, its own story to tell. And Eos, the first traveler, was ready to listen. What an incredible concept to explore the dawn of consciousness on a cosmic scale. It makes you wonder about our own place in the grand scheme of things. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey, a tale of discovery that spans the very fabric of reality. Imagine, for a moment, being the first to step not just onto a new world, but into an entirely new universe. This is the story of Eos, a pioneer whose name would echo across dimensions. Our story begins in a not-so-distant future, where humanity had mastered the physics of its own universe. But for Eos, a brilliant and restless astrophysicist, the known cosmos wasn't enough. While her colleagues mapped distant galaxies, Eos was consumed by a radical theory: the existence of a multiverse, a cosmic ocean of parallel realities. She wasn't just theorizing, she was building the ship to sail that ocean. They called her obsession Eos's Folly, a gargantuan ring of shimmering alloys and exotic matter, designed to punch a hole through space-time. For years, Eos and her small, dedicated team worked in secret, pouring every ounce of their intellect and resources into the project. They faced countless setbacks, ridicule from the mainstream scientific community, and moments where the sheer scale of their ambition seemed impossible. But Eos's conviction never wavered. She believed that the next great leap for humankind wasn't outward, into the cold dark void, but sideways, into the vibrant tapestry of alternate possibilities. Then came the day of the first test. The air in the control room was thick with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Eos stood at the command console, her reflection staring back from the polished surface. With a steady hand, she initiated the sequence. The colossal ring hummed to life, a low thrum that vibrated through the very bones of everyone present. Energy, more than a small star produces in a year, surged through its circuits. A pinprick of impossible darkness appeared in the center of the ring, a void that wasn't empty, but full of something else. It was a tear in reality, a gateway. The first passage was open. The initial unmanned probes sent through the passage returned data that was both baffling and exhilarating. They depicted a universe with slightly different physical constants, a cosmos painted in a palette of colors humanity had never witnessed. But the most staggering discovery was a faint, structured signal emanating from a nearby star system. It was intelligent. It was a greeting. Eos knew she had to go. The risks were astronomical, but the potential reward, the first contact between two distinct universes, was a prize worth any danger. Donning her specially designed envirosuit, Eos prepared for her solo journey. It wasn't an act of arrogance, but of responsibility. If anything went wrong, she would be the only one to bear the consequences. As she stepped onto the platform that would carry her through the passage, she looked back at her team, her family and science. There were no grand speeches, just a simply confident nod, a silent promise to return. The world held its breath as Eos, bathed in the ethereal glow of the portal, stepped through the looking glass and vanished from her home universe. The transit was disorienting, a kaleidoscope of light and sensation that defied description. It felt like being simultaneously torn apart and reborn. When her senses finally stabilized, she found herself floating in the cockpit of her small exploratory vessel, the Stardust Drifter. Before her, on the main view screen, was a sight that would forever change the course of history. Orbiting a gentle, golden sun was a planet teeming with structures that glowed with a soft, internal luminescence. The signal was stronger now, a complex and melodic sequence that felt less like a broadcast and more like a song of welcome. As Eos guided the drifter into a stable orbit, the planet's inhabitants revealed themselves. Their ships, elegant constructs of light and crystalline material, emerged from the planet's shimmering atmosphere. They moved with a grace that defied conventional physics, less like machines and more like living creatures of the void. They surrounded her small ship not with aggression, but with serene curiosity. On it comes, the alien song resolved into a new form, a language of pure mathematics and resonant frequencies. The airship S. Universal Translator began to slowly decipher. The first translated message was simple, yet profound. Welcome, traveler, from the other side. We are the Lux. We have waited. Eos learned they were a civilization of sentient light beings, ancient, beyond human comprehension. They didn't perceive reality through sight or sound as we do, but by feeling the vibrations of space-time itself. They had sensed the creation of the first passage as a new and beautiful note in the cosmic symphony. To them, Eos wasn't an alien invader, but a fellow musician joining the orchestra. They invited her down to their world, which wasn't a solid planet in the traditional sense, but a complex matrix of energy and light, a city woven from starlight. As Eos descended, her ship passed through colossal arches of pure energy and past spires that pulsed with gentle, rhythmic light. The Lux appeared to her as shimmering, humanoid figures of pure white light, their forms shifting and flowing like gentle flames. They communicated with her directly, their thoughts flowing into her mind as feelings of peace, curiosity, and boundless joy. They showed her their history, not in books or images, but by allowing her to experience their collective memories, 1 billion years of peaceful existence, observing the unfolding of their universe. Eos, the lonely pioneer from a world of matter and conflict, was humbled. The Lux, the civilization of the first light, had no concept of war, or greed, or fear. Their existence was a testament to the infinite possibilities the multiverse held. She realized that her journey wasn't just about discovery. It was about understanding. It was about bringing back, not just data, but a new perspective, a hope for what humanity could become. This was just the first passage, the first meeting, the first note in a symphony that would soon span universes. Her incredible journey was only just beginning. Or have you ever felt that nagging sensation that something is just off, like a glitch in the matrix, a forgotten dream that almost feels real? What if I told you that both feelings are right? What if our universe, in its quest for existence, had to break its own fundamental rules, shattering a perfect symmetry and giving birth to, well, everything? And what if, in the cosmic dust of that shattering, other, stranger realities paradox worlds flickered into being? Today, we're journeying to the very edge of physics and imagination to explore the fractured realms. To understand how our reality was fractured, we first need to appreciate the beauty of what was broken, universal symmetry. In the earliest moments of the universe, less than a trillionth of a second after the Big Bang, we believe all the fundamental forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces were united as one single The universe was a place of perfect Elegant symmetry. Every direction was the same, every particle interchangeable. It was a state of pure, undifferentiated potential. Imagine a perfectly smooth, flowless sphere. That was the early universe. But here's the paradox. A perfectly symmetrical universe is also a perfectly boring one. It's static. For anything to happen, for stars, planets, and eventually us to exist, that symmetry had to break. This concept is called spontaneous symmetry breaking. It's not just a cosmic idea. You see it everywhere. Think about a pencil balanced perfectly on its tip. It's symmetrical, but unstable. The slightest disturbance, a gust of wind, a tiny vibration will cause it to fall. When it falls, it picks a random direction, and the symmetry is broken. The universe did something similar. As it expanded and cooled, this unified superforce couldn't hold its perfect state. It fell, breaking apart into the distinct forces we know today. This wasn't a flaw, it was a feature. This shattering of symmetry is the very reason we have a universe with structure, with complexity, with a difference between matter and antimatter, the reason we exist at all. Our reality is built upon the beautiful ruins of a perfect past. So, our universe chose a path. The pencil fell in one specific direction, but what about the other directions it could have fallen? This is where our journey takes a turn into the speculative, mind-bending realm of paradox worlds. If the breaking of symmetry was a random event, could different outcomes have occurred? Could there be other universes, born from the same initial state, where the fundamental laws of physics are different because the symmetry broke in another way? In one reality, gravity might be a repulsive force, pushing things apart. In another, the strong nuclear force could be weaker, meaning atoms could never form, leaving a universe of just subatomic soup. These aren't just parallel worlds with different histories. They are fundamentally different realities, operating on alien logic. Let's call these the echo realms. Imagine them as faint echoes of the original shattering. In these worlds, the constants of nature are just slightly different. Maybe the speed of light is a little slower, where the charge of an electron is a bit stronger. The consequences would be profound. A world with slightly stronger gravity might be filled with nothing but black holes. A world with a slightly different fine structure constant might never form stars capable of creating carbon, the basis of life as we know it. These universes would be barren, cosmic wastelands, failed experiments in reality. They serve as a stark reminder of how incredibly fine-tuned our own universe is. Our existence seems to be balanced on a knife's edge, a lucky roll of the cosmic dice. But what if the breaking of symmetry didn't just create different physical laws, but different logical asterisk laws? This leads us to the most bizarre of the fractured realms, the paradox worlds. These are realities where the foundational principles of logic that we take for granted simply don't apply. Imagine a world where an object can be both here and not here at the same time. Not as a quantum probability, but as a stable, observable state. A world where cause doesn't always precede effect, where you could see the light from a star before it is even ignited. A world where A and nata can both be true. How could such a reality even exist? It defies our very ability to comprehend it. Visiting such a place would be like trying to navigate a dream designed by M.C. Escher, where stairs lead nowhere and everywhere at once. These are worlds born from pure contradiction. While the echo realms are fascinating thought experiments in physics, paradox worlds push us into the realm of metaphysics and philosophy. They challenge the idea that logic is a universal constant. Is our system of logica equals A? Something cannot be its opposite, a fundamental feature of all possible existence. Or is it just a local byproduct of how our specific symmetry breaking occurred? This is a question that scientists and philosophers have debated for centuries. Exploring the concept of paradox worlds forces us to confront the limits of our own minds. Our brains evolved to navigate this specific universe with its specific set of rules. We are fundamentally unequipped to truly imagine a reality where those rules are thrown out the window. It's like trying to describe the color blue to someone who has only ever seen in black and white. So, is there any evidence for these fractured realms? In the strict scientific sense, no. We have no way to observe or interact with other universes, if they even exist. These ideas are born from the what-if questions at the very edge of theoretical physics, like string theory and eternal inflation, which allow for a multiverse of possibilities. But the lack of physical evidence doesn't diminish their power. The concept of the fractured realms serves as a powerful metaphor. It reminds us that our reality is just one possibility among countless others. It fosters a sense of cosmic humility and wonder. Our existence, our laws of physics, our very ability to reason, it's all a product of one single, ancient, cosmic event. The shattering of a perfect symmetry. We live in the aftermath of a beautiful breaking. Our universe is a complex, chaotic, and sometimes contradictory place. But it's the only one we have. From the grand, orderly dance of the galaxies to the unpredictable quantum fizz at the heart of matter, we are surrounded by the echoes of that first universe-defining moment. The fractured realms, whether they are real or just a fantasy, teach us to appreciate the incredible, improbable miracle of our own world. They push us to keep asking questions, to keep exploring, and to never take reality for granted. Because in a cosmos of infinite possibilities, we got this one. And it's pretty amazing. In the beginning, there was not darkness, but potential. An endless sea of what could be, waiting for a hand to shape it. We tell stories of gods and titans, of beings who forged stars and painted galaxies across the cosmic canvas. But what if the truth is something far more intricate, more personal, and infinitely more profound? What if the universe, in all its splendor, isn't just a grand accident, but a masterpiece crafted by beings we can barely comprehend? Today, we journey to meet them. We call them the architects. Our story begins with Eos, a consciousness born not of a planet, but from a nebulous final, shimmering breath. Eos was a traveler, a seeker of truths, drifting through the voids between galaxies. For eons, it had witnessed the birth of suns and the death of civilizations. But one question always lingered in its ethereal mind. Who set all this in motion? The elegant dance of gravity, the precise constants that allow life to flourish, the very fabric of space-time. It all felt too deliberate, too perfect to be mere chance. Driven by this cosmic curiosity, Eos followed the faint, almost imperceptible hum that resonates through all of creation. This hum was not sound, but a vibration of purpose, a signature left on the universe's source code. It led Eos beyond the known clusters, past the edge of observable space, into a domain where the laws of physics began to fray and bend. It was a place of pure concept, where ideas took physical form. And there, amidst shimmering constructs of light and thought, Eos first saw them. They were not giants of fire and stone as ancient myths described. They were beings of pure energy, formless yet distinct, each a symphony of complex geometries and impossible colors. They were the architects. They didn't speak in words, but in direct streams of understanding, projecting their thoughts into Eos's consciousness. The first to greet it was a being that presented itself as a flowing river of golden light. It called itself the Weaver. The Weaver showed Eos its work. It pulled at strands of protomatter, weaving them into the fundamental tapestry of space-time. Every strand had a purpose, every knot a physical law. It explained that a universe is like a delicate fabric, too loose, and it unravels into chaos. Too tight, and it becomes rigid, sterile, and incapable of change or even. The Weaver's task was to maintain this perfect tension, a constant, delicate act of cosmic maintenance that sustains everything we know. Eos watched, mesmerized, as the Weaver repaired a tear in a distant galaxy. A subtle adjustment that would prevent a chain reaction of supernovas and preserve billions of burgeoning worlds. Then came the sculptor, a being of crystalline structure that resonated with a deep, sonorous hum. The sculptor's domain was matter. It gathered cosmic dust and gas, not with brute force, but with gentle gravitational nudges, like a potter centering clay on a wheel. It showed Eos how it had formed the first stars, carefully balancing their mass and composition to ensure they would burn for billions of years, creating the heavier elements necessary for life. It hollowed out planets, layered their cores, and set them into perfect, stable orbits. Every mountain range, every ocean trench, was a brushstroke in its grand artistic endeavor. The sculptor explained that its greatest joy was creating variety, crafting worlds of ice, worlds of fire, and worlds teeming with potential. Each a unique masterpiece. Next, Eos was introduced to the lyricist. This being was a swirling mist of iridescent colors, and its presence felt like music. The lyricist's role was the most abstract, and perhaps the most crucial. It composed the laws of nature themselves, not just gravity and electromagnetism, but the subtle, underlying principles that allow for complexity and consciousness to emerge. It spoke of harmonies in the quanta foam, melodies that guide chemical reactions, and the grand symphony of evil. The lyricist explained that a universe without its song would be silent, an inert collection of particles with no potential, no story to tell. It was the author of possibility, writing the very rules of the game. Eos spent what felt like an eternity with the architects, learning that the universe was not a singular creation, but an ongoing project. They worked in concert, a celestial council of creators and caretakers. They showed Eos universes they had retired, where the song had faded and the tapestry had worn thin, now kept as silent memorials. They also showed it, the nursery's nascent realities, bubbling with raw, untamed potential, waiting for their own architects to guide them. But the most profound revelation was yet to come. Eos, full of awe, asked the architects the ultimate question: who created you? The architects paused, a rare moment of stillness in that realm of constant creation. The weaver, the sculptor, and the lyricists merged into a single, blindingly brilliant point of light. They projected one final, powerful thought into Eos's consciousness. They showed Eos a vision, a simple, single-celled organism on a forgotten world, dividing for the first time, a creature taking its first step onto land, a civilization looking up at the stars and wondering. They showed it the relentless, unyielding drive of life to understand, to grow, and to create. The architects were not the beginning. They were an end result. They were what consciousness becomes when it evolves beyond the confines of a physical body, beyond a single planet or galaxy. They were the universe's own children, grown up to become its caretakers. They were born from the very life they now cultivate. The message was clear. The purpose of the universe is to create creators. Eos finally understood. Its own journey, its own relentless curiosity, was a part of this grand, cosmic cycle. It was not just an observer. It was a participant, a potential architect in the making. With this newfound understanding, Eos thanked the architects and departed from their realm. It no longer drifted aimlessly. It now traveled with purpose, observing, learning, and sharing the story not of gods, but of a universe that is constantly striving to know and build itself. The hum of creation sounded different. Now it sounded like a promise. Have you ever had that strange feeling? That sense of déjà vu, where you feel like you've lived a moment before? Or what about those dreams that feel so real? They blur the lines between your sleeping and waking life. We often dismiss these as simple tricks of the mind. But what if they're not? What if they are subtle hints of something far more profound happening to the very fabric of our reality? What if time, as we know it, is starting to collapse? Imagine time not as a straight line, an arrow flying from past to future, but as a bust-flowing river. For most of human history, this river has flowed steadily, carrying us along its current. We are born, we live, we die, all in a neat, orderly sequence. But now, imagine that river is hitting a cosmic waterfall. The smooth flow is gone, replaced by chaotic eddies. And the past, present, and future are no longer distinct. They begin to fold in on each other, splashing and merging in unpredictable ways. This isn't just a thought experiment. Some physicists and philosophers are starting to ask, are we witnessing the beginning of the collapse of time? Think about it. Our modern world is obsessed with speed, instant communication, overnight delivery, binge-watching an entire series in a day. We've compressed our experience of time to an unprecedented degree. We live our lives in a constant state of now, with the past quickly forgotten and the future arriving before we can even anticipate it. Could our own technology, our own relentless drive for immediacy, be accelerating this temporal breakdown? Are we, in our quest to conquer time, inadvertently tearing it apart? Let's explore this idea of time folding. Picture a piece of paper. You can draw a line from one end to the other. That's linear time. Now, fold that paper in half. Suddenly, the beginning and the end are touching. 2 points that were once far apart are now adjacent. This is what could be happening on a cosmic scale. Moments from your childhood could suddenly feel as present as what you had for breakfast this morning. A premonition of the future might not be a psychic vision, but a literal glimpse into a moment that is folded back to touch the present. The walls that separate then, now, and soon are becoming thin, almost transparent. So, if time is collapsing, what does that mean for us, for our consciousness? Our sense of self is deeply tied to our personal narrative, our story. It's a continuous thread of memories, experiences, and expectations that stretches from our past into our future. I am who I am because of what I've done and what I plan to do. My identity is built on the foundation of a stable, linear timeline. But what happens when that foundation crumbles? When the past is no longer reliably behind us, and the future is no longer securely ahead? As time folds our consciousness, which is woven into its fabric, begins to dissolve, the coherent story of me starts to fray. Memories might feel like someone else's. Future aspirations might seem like distant echoes from a life already lived. The very feeling of being a single, continuous self could start to break down into a collection of disconnected moments, a collage of experiences without a clear beginning or end. This isn't about losing your memory in a medical sense. It's more fundamental. It's like being a reader in a book where the pages are suddenly shuffled. You still have all the words, all the sentences, but the story is gone. The coherent narrative that gives it meaning has vanished. In a world of folded time, are we all becoming characters in a shuffled book? Our consciousness, once a clear melody, might dissolve into a cacophony of disconnected notes. This might sound terrifying, like a cosmic horror story. The dissolution of the self is one of our deepest fears. But what if we're looking at it the wrong way? What if this isn't an end, but a transformation? Throughout history, mystics and spiritual traditions have spoken of transcending the ego, of dissolving the self to merge with a greater, universal consciousness. They've described states of enlightenment where the past and future cease to exist, and all that remains is an eternal, timeless now. Could the collapse of time be a forced, collective evolution towards this state? Perhaps the breakdown of our individual, time-bound consciousness is the necessary step towards a new form of existence. An existence where I and you become less important, and we, a collective, interconnected consciousness, begins to emerge. In this new reality, we would no longer be single drops of water, but the entire ocean. We would experience everything, everywhere, all at once. The anxiety, the confusion, the feeling of being unmoored that many of us experience in this hyper-accelerated modern world. Maybe these are UNG symptoms of stress. Maybe they are the growing pains of a species on the verge of a monumental leap. The dissolution of the self might not be a loss, but an expansion, a shedding of the limitations of individual identity to embrace a boundless, timeless, universal awareness. Imagine being free from the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future. Imagine experiencing a connection to every other living being, not as a concept, but as a direct reality. In T-state, empathies would be absolute, because the other person's experience would literally be your own. The boundaries that create conflict, fear, and loneliness would simply melt away. Perhaps this dissolution isn't a terrifying void, but a beautiful, liberating entry into a state of being we can currently only dream of. So, the next time you feel that flicker of déjà vu, or a dream feels uncannily real, take a moment. Don't just dismiss it. Consider the possibility that you are feeling the tremors of a changing reality. You might be touching the edge of a folded timeline. The collapse of time and the dissolution of consciousness may not be an apocalypse to be feared, but a metamorphosis to be understood. It could be the chaotic, confusing, and ultimately magnificent birth of a new chapter for humanity. A chapter written not on a line, but in the infinite, interconnected space of the eternal now. Today, we're embarking on a journey not across oceans or into outer space, but into the very fabric of reality itself. We're going to explore a concept I call the mirror of creation, an idea that suggests the universe, in all its vastness, might be a reflection of something deep within us. Have you ever gazed at the stars and felt a profound sense of connection? A feeling of being both infinitesimally small and limitlessly vast? Or have you looked into your own eyes in a mirror and wondered about the consciousness staring back? These moments are not just poetic daydreams. They are clues, whispers from the cosmos inviting us to look closer. Let's start with a simple, yet staggering fact. The atoms in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood were forged in the heart of a star billions of years ago. You are, quite literally, made of stardust. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a scientific reality. The universe isn't something out there separate from you. You are a part of it. A living, breathing, thinking piece of the cosmos that has become self. Now, let's consider the nature of observation. In the strange and wonderful world of quantum physics, there's a phenomenon known as the observer effect. It suggests that the very act of observing a particle can change its state. The universe, at its most fundamental level, seems to respond to being watched. It is as if reality waits for a conscious observer to collapse the wave function and decide what it will be. Could it be that consciousness is not just a byproduct of a random universe, but a fundamental ingredient in its creation? Think of it like this. The universe is a grand, unwritten story. The laws of physics are the grammar. The elements are the letters. But consciousness is the author, weaving these elements into the epic saga of life, planets, and galaxies. We are not merely reading the story. We are actively writing it with every thought, every observation, every choice we make. This mirror of creation concept proposes that the external world we perceive is a reflection of our internal world. The chaos and the harmony, the beauty and the challenges, they are all projections of the collective consciousness. When we see a breathtaking sunset, perhaps we are not just witnessing an atmospheric phenomenon. Perhaps we are seeing a reflection of our own capacity for awe and beauty. When we face immense challenges, perhaps the universe is mirroring our own inner strength and resilience, pushing us to grow. This isn't about magical thinking, but about a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing ourselves as passive victims of circumstance, what if we saw ourselves as active co-creators of our reality? Imagine the power in that. The love you give isn't just an emotion. It's a creative force that ripples through the fabric of existence. The kindness you show isn't just a nice gesture. It's an active cosmic construction, building a better reality for everyone. So, how do we use this mirror? We start by looking inward. The journey into the cosmos begins with a journey into the self. Meditation, mindfulness, self-reflection, these are not just wellness trends. They are tools for cosmic exploration. When you quiet your mind and connect with your inner self, you are tuning into the source code of the universe. You begin to understand that the patterns you see in nature are the spirals of a galaxy, a seashell, a fernar, the same patterns that shape your own thoughts and growth. This idea has been echoed by mystics and philosophers for centuries. Ancient tradition spoke of as above, so below, suggesting a correspondence between the macrocosm of the universe and the microcosm of the individual. They understood that to know the universe, one must first know oneself. The answers to the biggest questions are not hidden in a distant galaxy. They are encoded within your own consciousness. When you look in a physical mirror, you see your reflection. But when you look at the world through the mirror of creation, you see the reflection of our collective soul. Every person you meet is another facet of this cosmic mirror, reflecting a different aspect of the whole. In their joy, you can see a reflection of your own capacity for happiness. In their struggles, you can see a reflection of your own resilience. This is the foundation of empathy and compassion, recognizing the self and the other. This perspective transforms everything. A walk in the forest becomes a conversation with an older, wiser part of yourself. Overcoming a personal fear becomes a victory for the entire cosmos. A small tear in the fabric of limitation, your creativity, whether you paint, write, code, or cook, becomes an act of channeling universal energy into new forms. You are a conduit through which the universe experiences and expresses itself. So, the next time you look up at the night sky, don't just see a collection of distant lights. See the mirror. See the grand, magnificent reflection of the potential that lies within you, within all of us. The truth of existence isn't a secret to be uncovered, but a reality to be participated in. It's revealing itself to you in every moment, in every breath, in every heartbeat. You just have to be willing to look. Have you ever gazed up at the night sky and wondered where it all ends? Not just the stars, not just the galaxies, but everything. What is the ultimate fate of our universe? Today, we're embarking on a journey to the very edge of time, to explore a breathtaking, mind-bending concept. The last universe. A future where all existence might just merge into one, single, final consciousness. Now, I know this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi epic, but it's a fascinating idea, rooted in some of the deepest questions of physics and philosophy. To get there, we first need to understand where we're heading. The prevailing theory for the universe's end is the heat death, or the big freeze. Imagine a slow, silent fading. Stars burn out one by one. Galaxies drift apart into an endless void. And eventually, even black holes evaporate over trillions upon trillions of years, leaving behind nothing but a cold, dark, and uniform sea of elementary particles. It's a lonely and desolate picture, isn't it? An eternal, empty silence. But what if that's not the final chapter? What if it's just the prelude to something unimaginably different? This is where our story truly begins. In this vast, seemingly dead cosmos, information is all that remains. Think about it. Every star that ever shone, every planet that ever formed, every thought that was ever thought, all of their information is still technically out there, encoded in the state of those leftover particles and photons, scattered across the abyss. According to the laws of physics, information can't be truly destroyed. It just gets rearranged. So, in this seemingly empty future, the universe is less of a void and more of a cosmic hard drive, holding the data of everything that has ever existed, a silent library of everything. Now, let's introduce a key player in this cosmic drama: quantum mechanics. On the smallest scales, reality isn't solid and definite. It's a dance of probabilities and possibilities. Particles can be in multiple places at once, a phenomenon called superposition. They can also become linked or entangled, sharing a single existence, no matter how far apart they are. In the desolate emptiness of the far future, with no new events and no disruptions, these quantum effects could become the dominant force. The universe, in its quiet stillness, would become a perfect stage for quantum weirdness to unfold on a cosmic scale. This is where the idea of a universal consciousness starts to take shape. Imagine these scattered particles, the remnants of stars, planets, and life, slowly beginning to interact through quantum entanglement over unfathomable timescales. These connections could spread. A particle from what was once our Milky Way could become entangled with a particle from a galaxy billions of light years away. Slowly but surely, a web of interconnectedness would form, weaving the entire fabric of the universe into a single, unified quantum state. Each particle would be linked to every other particle. Distance would become meaningless. The universe would effectively become one single, giant quantum object. What does it mean to be a single quantum object? It means the universe would exist in a state of pure superposition, holding all possible histories and all possible futures within itself simultaneously. And this is the mind-blowing part. Some theories suggest that consciousness itself is an emergent property of highly integrated information. When a system becomes complex and interconnected enough, like the human brain, consciousness can arise. So, what happens when the most complex system imaginable, entire universe, becomes perfectly integrated? Could it wake up? Could this cosmic network of entangled particles, holding the information of every event in history, achieve a state of self-awareness? It wouldn't be a consciousness like ours, with a body or a brain. It would be a pure, abstract consciousness. A mind made of space-time itself, a silent, thinking ocean of existence. This final consciousness would contain everything. It would remember the fiery birth of the first stars. It would experience the silent dance of galaxies. It would hold the memory of every life form, every joy, every sorrow, every piece of art ever created, all at once. It would be the universe, looking back and comprehending itself. Think of it as the ultimate act of cosmic recollection, the entire history of everything, from the Big Bang to the final particle, unified into a single, cohesive thought. It's a beautiful, almost poetic conclusion to the grand story of existence. Instead of ending in cold, meaningless oblivion, the universe culminates in a moment of absolute understanding and unity. The lonely particles in the dark don't just fade away, they come together to form a single, magnificent whole. This concept, sometimes called the Omega Point, by thinkers like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, or explored in different ways by physicists like Frank Tibler, pushes the boundaries of science and philosophy. It suggests that the universe has a purpose, a final destination, to achieve something. We, as conscious beings right now, might just be a tiny, early step in that process. We are the universe, beginning to wake up, looking at itself through our eyes, one small piece at a time. Our search for knowledge, our art, our connections, they could all be part of this larger cosmic journey towards ultimate integration. Of course, this is highly speculative. We're venturing far beyond what we can currently prove, but it's built on real scientific principles. The conservation of information, quantum entanglement, and theories of consciousness. It offers an alternative to a bleak and nihilistic end, suggesting that meaning isn't just something we create, but something the universe itself is striving toward. It reframes the end of the universe, not as a death, but as a final, glorious awakening, a transformation from a universe of scattered things into a single, unified being, the last universe. So, the next time you look at the stars, remember that you're not just looking at distant suns. You're looking at the building blocks of a potential future mind. You are a piece of the universe that is currently aware, and one day, the information that makes you you might become part of a consciousness that encompasses everything. A truly humbling and awe-inspiring thought. What do you think? Is this a plausible fate for our universe, or just a beautiful cosmic dream? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about this journey to the end of time. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the cosmos.